Good afternoon. Welcome to Cohn and Krueger. That's Larry Krueger. I'm Grant Cohn. We got a fairly news-packed episode today. The Niners signed two guys. One of their guys left. We're going to get to all the news, but the most important news of the day is that Larry and I advanced in the 49ers content creator March Madness pool. Who did you beat?
Jennifer Lee Chan.
Oh, that's big. She's great. I beat David Lombardi, which I thought was a huge upset.
How did you
He's got like 100,000 followers on Twitter, but I won. So me and you, I beat him, and I don't know how, but you and I are now facing off, so you can vote. Voters of this show can vote. That's pretty fun. I would vote for Larry. Larry's better than me. Larry's the OG.
No. Look at that.
Vote for Larry. Vote for Larry.
That's the oldest move in the book. He's like voting twice over here. Vote for him.
That's
Vote
true.
For him.
All right, it's enough self-promotion for today.
I think it's this thing has been mismatched that we're meeting in the second round like this.
I know.
This should have been a regional final.
I would think so. We got to talk to the schedule makers. This is horse shit. Okay. All right, so the Niners signed John Feliciano today. Yeah. This guy he was a starting center for the Giants last year. 3 years before that, he was a starting guard for the Bills. He's a vet. What do you think of it? 1 year deal. What do you think?
Well, first of all, I've loved this player a long time. I think this guy's one of my favorite players going way back. I mean, I liked him at Miami. I don't know if you know this kid's story, but his story was incredible. I mean, his mom sadly battled breast cancer throughout all of his high school years. His family home was condemned. He had to go from house to house. It was just incredible. And then he goes to Miami, and he plays there for 5 years and fights his way to the NFL without being the greatest athlete. But this guy's just tough. And he's a good pass protector. You can play him at center. You can play him at right guard. I just think it's quality veteran depth with, the trait that I think is the most important in the offensive line is just pure toughness. And that's what this guy has. He's a tough old Italian guy who will fight you in a phone booth. And he was a really good pass protector this last year for the Giants at center. He played good years with the Raiders, good years with Buffalo. I like it. It gives them protection against Brendel an injury, protection at both guard spots. This isn't the answer at tackle, but yeah, I really like this addition. I don't know what they paid for him, but Feliciano's a good, tough veteran who will fight. And if Brendel or Burford wind up starting over him, they will be better for it because he's going to compete with them.
Yeah, it seems so. Do you think that this most likely is a Daniel Brunskill replacement? Brunskill signed a 2-year deal with the Titans. He's younger. I would think that Feliciano is cheaper on a 1-year deal, but he has a lot of starting experience too. Is this sort of a 1-for-1?
I think, yeah, but I mean, Feliciano's quite a bit better than Brunskill.
Okay.
Brunskill's, good pass protector, but didn't give you hardly any movement never gave you much pop in the run game. This guy's more of a run game. This guy's bigger. He's 325. He's more physical, and he's more of a road grader. I like this helps their run game up the middle quite a bit.
Well, let me ask you this. Is it possible that he'll start at right guard and Spencer Burford will move out to right tackle?
I think that may be asking a lot of Spencer Burford, but I think that it's very likely that Feliciano might become the Brunskill who shares time with Burford at right guard.
Yeah. Right. Because they need to figure out a way to not figure out, but they need to be able to run to the right. Last year, I think they ran left more frequently than any team in the league. And you can't be a dominant run team if everyone knows which way you're going. So if he could come in and help that run game to the right, that would be great. He's not going to be McKivitz.
I mean, he was top 10 ESPN pass block win rate among centers, which is a little surprising because I think of him more as a strong run blocker, but he had a 95% win rate as a pass protector at center. But yeah, I think he's broader. He's a lot wider than Brunskill. Brunskill is maybe one of the smartest offensive linemen I think I've ever talked to. I mean, I was shocked when I interviewed him how smart he was and how detailed he was. But Feliciano is definitely going to be a better run plugger, much more physical offensive lineman.
Yeah, I can't see the Niners benching Spencer Burford if they look at him as their future at right guard for a vet on a 1 year deal. So I kind of see this as Daniel Brunskill replacement. But as you look at it as a Daniel Brunskill improvement. So that's
Oh, I think it's definitely an upgrade. Brunskill was good for what they needed him for, and he's a technician. But I mean, Feliciano, wait till Feliciano's a much
he's big.
wider guy.
Yeah.
He's going to be harder to get around. And I think he's
and the Niners need some large offensive linemen. They got to block Jordan Davis this year. It's a big D lineman in the league. They got to in the NFC among the contenders. So,
and if you lose Brendel to an injury, at least you got a 325-pound veteran who's done it before, and not just maybe Zakel, maybe Poe.
Right.
So I think I think it's a good move.
It seems like Kyle Shanahan would rather not have a rookie center. It seems like that's kind of a position he wants. A vet who preferably knows his system.
Yeah. It's a cerebral position. You're making a lot of the line calls and, you're sliding protections and, you don't want to take a chance with somebody who you don't, that's still learning the craft. So I think that's the area where if they're going to err with a veteran over a rookie, they do.
AceNong29 says, thank you for keeping us sane, waiting for the season to start. Amazing content. Oh yeah, this is when the real pros make their hay right here. The off season. Right. It's not easy. Right. Burford and McKivitz sharing right tackle, Feliciano at right guard. Possible. The way you describe Feliciano makes me feel like don't count him out as a potential starter. They could use a good big run blocking right guard. I don't think that's going to be Burford.
Yeah, I mean, is Burford's foot quickness enough to play him at right tackle? I don't know, but I'll say this.
I'd like to know.
Now you got an option. Now you got Feliciano who could play right guard, and you could move Burford out to. Maybe the answer is that Feliciano gives you another body, and that Burford, McKivitz, Jalen Moore, Zakel, maybe they're all in the running for that right side of the offensive line in different spots.
You've seen Burford in person.
Yeah.
I mean, you're in the locker room. To me, he looks like a tackle. He's got length. He's 6'5". He looks like I don't know if he could. He played tackle. He looks like a tackle to me. So I don't know. Right tackle. He's probably a better athlete than McGlinchey. I'd like to see what it looks like.
And the thing about Spencer Burford, he's like this really conscientious hard worker. So if they said to him, hey, get on the jump rope, get your foot quickness. This is what we think we see you as a 10-year starter at offensive tackle. He's the kind of guy that would diligently do the work, I really believe, and maybe show up a little bit quicker, a little leaner, because he's going to take a little bit more quickness to defend the Hassan Reddicks of the world.
And maybe when they drafted him with the vision that he could be a right tackle for us when McGlinchey leaves, and instead of just redshirting him for a year, let's get him on the field. Let's play him at right guard. We can slide him over. I have no idea. But I just feel like he's a better athlete than McKivitz, better athlete than McGlinchey, kind of built like a tackle, played a tackle. I don't know. Crazier things have worked, but we'll see. Yeah. I don't know.
He's a good prospect either way. I mean, he's either way. He's a phenomenal prospect. I mean, and in college he was a 3-year starter, but he was also considered kind of a poor outside pass protector. So that's why they moved him to guard. So I'll say this. I love Burford. He's got a nasty demeanor. He's physical. He's got really strong hands. So, maybe he can get quicker.
All right. This is something I heard from someone who is connected with the Raiders. Josh McDaniel and the Raiders signed Jacoby Myers, who's a bit of a slot receiver. Then apparently a report came out that Hunter Renfrow is available in a trade for teams who are interested. I got a tip from someone who's connected with the Raiders that of the teams that inquired about Hunter Renfrow, the Niners were one of them. Now, that doesn't mean the Niners are going to trade for Renfrow. John Lynch always says he does his due diligence. This could have just been, I want to know what the price is. I want to know what other people are giving up for Hunter Renfrow. Don't know. But my question for you is this someone the Niners should target? What do you think of Hunter Renfrow?
They absolutely should target him, and they really have all their bases covered. They've got Ayuk and Debo, their star tandem. They've got big Jawan Jennings, who can be has huge catch radius and can
Almost like a
run the
tight
great.
end in the
Yeah,
passing
almost like
game.
a tight
Yeah.
end, like a flexed out tight end. He can run the real
Yeah.
solid out route. He's got sticky hands, huge radius. Then you got the vertical threat in Danny Gray. You've got the special team return guy who also could be a gadget player in Ray Ray. And then I like Tay Martin, but and to me Tay Martin rounds out that receiving core. But what does Tay do? Tay's got good height, really good ball skills, not great speed, but he's a real good like continuity piece. Well, Hunter Renfrow would be a great guy to compete with Tay for that final spot. He's a continuity player. He's a guy that keeps you on the field because he runs a perfect third and 7 route, and you can throw with anticipation to a spot and know that he'll be open. Yeah, I think Hunter. I think they have the speed threat, the guy who can take the top off the D. They've got their big play guys. They've got depth. They've got the return guy. The piece that they could use is either a Tay Martin or a Hunter Renfrow, that possession receiver that just keeps you on the field and you just can play pitch and catch to him at will. And he has great ball skills, great hands, understands soft spots in the zone, knows where to sit down and just catches it with his hands. Very reliable. So yeah, Hunter Renfrow. I would say I wouldn't want to give more than a day 3 pick, probably like a 6th-round pick. But yeah, Hunter Renfrow would be a nice addition to the Niners.
Yeah, I don't know if you could get him for that. I would imagine the Raiders won't just give him away. I'm not sure that it doesn't sound like the Niners are going to get him because in addition to the pick they'd have to give up, they would have to give his cap number's like $13 million. So he'd be even more expensive than Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah,
but it's not happening. I guess they just wanted to know what it would cost. But it's an interesting fit because if they're really going with Brock Purdy as their franchise quarterback, then Hunter Renfrow's a perfect fit with him. Like Danny Gray was drafted with Trey Lance in mind. I don't know that Brock Purdy 2.0 coming off this surgery is necessarily going to be bombing it to Danny Gray much in the future, but Hunter Renfrow, I mean, that's pretty much exactly who you would pair with a quarterback who has anticipation and accuracy over the middle. So I can see it. Also, if the Niners aren't necessarily certain that they're going to sign Brandon Ayuk long-term and they're flirting with the idea of trading him because there have been reports that they're getting calls on him and they don't want to trade. So Odell Beckham's an expensive old replacement for Brandon Ayuk if they had to do that. Hunter Renfrow would be a cheaper, younger replacement, although they're not quite the same.
When's Jennings a free agent? Probably next year.
Next year.
Right? Yeah, so to me, Renfrow is definitely insurance on Jennings because
Good point.
Jennings is the continuity piece. He's the chain mover, and Renfrow's a chain mover. So maybe they feel like maybe they. I don't think they're going to cut Jennings, but maybe they feel like this is Jennings' last year.
Could be. And if the Niners don't get Renfrow now, keep an eye on this during the season next year because he's signed for a few more years with the Raiders. It's just he got that extension before Josh McDaniels got there. I believe you. All right. More huge news. Actually, the biggest news for the 49ers. They re-signed Ross Dwelley. A lot of people thought he was going to get like a $200 million contract somewhere else, but no, he gave the Niners that hometown discount coming back. Probably a 1-year deal for the minimum, I'm guessing. No. In all seriousness, 7 catches the last 2 seasons. They don't use him. He's like a special teams guy. Why do they keep bringing Ross Dwelley back when he was like inactive down the stretch and Tyler Kroft was playing over him and now Tyler Kroft's gone and Dwelley's back? Tell me why.
Yeah.
Why?
He's a receiving tight end with no inline blocking ability. I mean,
that they don't throw to.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good guy. He went to a
play special teams.
Yeah, he went to a good Jesuit school at University of San Diego. I don't know. They must love him though. He's a core special teamer, but he only played 101 snaps on offense.
What?
But he played 238 snaps on special teams. So I mean, he's on their hands team on onside kicks. He's a receiving threat.
That's why he's on the team for the onside kicks, for the 4 onside kicks this season.
Right. I think they'll probably draft him off the team because I think they will go tight end. But I mean, they obviously like him. They like him as a movement tight end. and they must prefer him over other options. I mean, you've got Kittle, you've got Warner, who's kind of a try-hard blocker. You got Dwelley, but you really need to upgrade, I think at the tight end spot behind Kittle. So, we'll
To
see.
me, Dwelley is just like a bigger, slower Juwan Jennings. I don't understand why he doesn't get the ball. They have the same exact skill set. Really slow, but yet they get open and catch passes.
I mean, I think Dwelley's a decent pass catching option. He just gives you no power at all as a blocker. So he's a negligent blocker. It's like, oh my God. I mean, you're gonna risk
Also, nothing after the catch. He gives you nothing after the catch, but he's never dropped a pass in his life. Well, in his career.
Good hands. He always had good hands.
Yeah. And it's funny if you watch him in training camp. He's slow. He's like slower than the offensive lineman. He runs at 5'1". He's like rumbling up, and then he does this little move, and then he gets open and catches the ball no matter who's covering him. I don't know how he does it, but he moves in slow motion.
But here's the bottom line. Part of having good special teams is giving your special teams coach a voice in the roster construction. And maybe Schneider just said, hey, look, this is one of my key special teamers. I want him back. And that right there could be the reason he's back.
The way he's the last person down on kick returns, I need that. I gotta have that. I love Ross Dwelley.
Yeah.
No, but the real question is, are the Niners still in the market for a tight end? The real question is, are the Niners still in the market for a tight end?
No doubt.
Yes, of course. In the draft, it's a not a generational, but it's one of the better tight end classes in a long time. Like, they got to get in on this.
No doubt. I mean, there's going to be great players at the tight end spot in this draft. And, they have 3 third round picks, a 4th round pick, multiple 5th round picks, I believe. Somewhere in that window, they're going to get a tight end.
What about the Iowa tight end from this year, Sam Laporta?
I like him. I like him a lot.
Yeah.
He's not Kittle, but I like him. I mean, he is not as fast as Kittle. He's not as strong as Kittle, but he's got great instincts as a receiver. Their offense was so terrible, and their quarterback was so bad that it's almost hard to evaluate him, but he still was productive. So, if you watch Iowa offense, seriously, they treated every touchdown like a lunar eclipse. I mean, it's ridiculous. Their quarterback, Spencer Petras, was horrible.
Sorry, Spencer.
So in some ways, I think Laporta might be a lot better than we even think, because he was still productive on that horrendous offense.
Kind of like how Kittle was held back by C.J. Beathard back in college. What about Payne Durham from Purdue?
I love him. He's 6'5". Okay. He's 255. Okay. He's got soft hands. I like Payne Durham a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of good tight ends. I mean, the Notre Dame kid, I guess, did not work out particularly well at the combine, so he's going to probably fall into the 20s. Michael Mayer. Dalton Kincaid is an incredible player. The Georgia kid made that amazing catch at the combine, but he is just a freakish athlete at 270. So, yeah, there's a lot of good tight ends this year.
Are the Raiders going to get him? Is that why they traded Waller?
I got to think the Raiders are going to get a tight end, because not only do they trade Waller, I think Foster Moreau's leaving. So the Raiders are totally empty at tight end, so they're going to get somebody.
Josh McDaniels is so good at tearing down a team. I feel like the reason he went to the Raiders is because he knows that Mark Davis doesn't have enough cash to really fire him and hire someone else. Like, he's got some job security here, right?
He's got job security.
Because, no one likes... Exactly. No one likes Josh McDaniels. No one has anything nice to say about him, and he seems arrogant enough to think that he actually created Tom Brady, which is a problem, because he didn't. Right. Kyle Shanahan's cat says odds on Niners waste third round pick on kicker Jake Moody.
No more drafting kickers. No more drafting kickers high. Go re-sign Robbie Gould.
They could have had Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, but they drafted a punter.
Right. No more of that.
In round 4. All right. Jordan Willis signed with the Raiders. I'm not sad because I don't root for the Niners, but I like Jordan Willis. I like Jordan Willis. And now he's gone. I feel like the Niners spent 2 years developing him, and I thought he was good. And I think this is a really good signing for the Raiders. How did the Niners not bring Jordan Willis back?
I know. If you told me they were not going to get Ebukam or Menihu or Willis, they're all leaving. I mean, it just kind of shows this is going to be the routine, is that Chris is going to find guys that he likes. They're going to have good years in the wide 9 opposite Bosa. They're going to go somewhere else and get paid. I mean, that's, but I will say this. I love this class of defensive ends, and many guys that I think are going to be day two guys could be quite a bit better than Jordan Willis, than Menahue, than Ebukam. There's a lot of really good edge rushers in this draft, and if they get a couple of them, you know what? They'll probably be just fine. But it's a very deep class for it.
Only thing is, it feels like a kind of 1-for-1 trade, Jordan Willis for Cleveland Farrell.
Which is a bad trade.
That's a bad trade. What?
Trade.
So I'd love to hear. And again, I want to give Chris Kasarik the benefit of the doubt here. I'm sure he has a reason and a vision. So I'd love to know, like, what does Cleveland Farrell give you that Jordan Willis didn't? Because I actually thought Jordan Willis had potential. Not more than potential. I thought he flashed as an edge rusher. Cleveland Farrell? What? Huh? I don't get it.
Cleveland Farrell. Only thing Cleveland Farrell looks good to me is that he plays the run really well.
Yeah,
and
he
if
does.
you want to go 4 DNs on obvious passing downs and put him inside, he'll probably be able to stand up inside better than some of those other guys. But Jordan Willis ran 4.53 coming out of K-State. He's much more dynamic off the edge.
Yeah.
Cleveland Farrell is not a dynamic edge. He's got 10 sacks in 4 seasons.
Yeah. So I'd love to know what Jordan Willis ended up signing for with the Raiders, because this feels like a bad trade for the 49ers. But if he ended up getting a lot more than Cleveland Farrell, that would explain it. Anyway, Good move for the Raiders. Lonnie Johnson apparently is on the Niners' radar. Tell the good people who watch our show, who are very knowledgeable about the NFL, but may not know who Lonnie Johnson is, about him and what his story is.
Well, he's a kid who played at University of Kentucky. He was a corner at Kentucky, and had all the skills coming out, and a lot of measurables. And he's got really, really crazy long arms. He's one of the NFL's best elite kick blockers. So that guy who comes flying off the edge and blocks the kicks, this guy's perfected it. So he's a real force as a kick blocker. He's got huge long arms. He's better in zone than he is in man, and he lacks some deep speed, but he's got ball skills. The nice thing is he came in as a corner, and now he's actually got experience the last couple of years playing free safety. So he's played free safety, he's played nickel, he's played outside. So what he really is a big veteran, long-armed guy who would kind of give you flexibility going into the draft, because he could cover you in any spot at free safety, at nickel, on the outside, or you could play him at one of those other spots and draft that spot. So he would enable the Niners to kind of play the draft for the best player, as opposed to got to have a free safety or got to have a corner. So I like it. I mean, first of all, you can never have enough corner depth, and he's a big guy who's played outside with long arms, and he's very confident. He's a cocky, playmaking guy. He doesn't have huge deep speed, and it's not great in man coverage.
Sounds like the kind of guy that the Niners are into. I mean, I think they're going to be playing more zone coverage with Steve Wilks. I think D'Amico wanted to play man-to-man. That's what he was trying to do with Emmanuel Mosley and Charvarius Ward. Steve Wilks is a big zone coverage guy, and I think he wants – you're seeing it with guys with length, like Isaiah Oliver. And I think Lonnie Johnson would fit in as well. So that might be why they're interested in him. I haven't gotten him yet, though.
Player.
And good run player.
Good player against the run. You got big corners that can come up and make plays. I mean, let's be honest. They lost some physicality and some swagger when Jimmy Ward walked out the door and when Mosley walked out the door. Yep. They need that, especially against the run, those physical players. Last couple of years, they've lost K1, Tart, Ward, Mosley. You could argue those 4 guys 2 years ago were their 4 most physical defensive backs. They're all out of the room now.
Lenore and Charvarius Ward are pretty physical against the run too, but yeah, you got to keep. I mean, Ambry Thomas isn't. Tashawn Gibson, yeah, they got to add some more. Womack isn't. I think that's why he lost his job. Pete Ruiz is telling you we need Deuce Vaughn for that 6th Lombardi.
Deuce Vaughn is a tiny little player, but he is electric, man. He's a special team return guy. Deuce Vaughn, yeah, K-State. Big time. I
love athletes named Deuce. I feel like if you're an athlete and you're not getting enough playing time, just change your name to Deuce. All of a sudden, coach will be like, "Oh, that's my starter." Yep. His name is Deuce.
Deuce McAllister. That was a great.
Got to play him.
Deuce McAllister.
All right, Danny Gray. He got basically redshirted last year, but you can't write off Niners young players, especially on offense, who redshirt, because Kyle Shanahan seems to want to do that with young players. They got to learn the system anyway, and we've seen a lot of second-year players break out with the 49ers recently. So Danny Gray in particular, like, what are you expecting out of him in his second season?
More strength, better, just better play strength, has his feet under him a little bit more. He's got the speed and he's got the hands, he's got the confidence. It's just a little bit more strength, a little bit more awareness, a little bit more knowledge, a little bit better in a little bit better rhythm with the quarterback, whether it be Trey or Brock or I guess now Sam Darnold. But I expect Danny Gray to have a significant NFL career. I mean, he's not just a burner. There's all kinds of guys drafted every year who just run fast. This guy's not just that. He's a receiver. You know, he's got good ball skills, and I think he's going to be a tremendous player. It just didn't happen for him. And I did an interview late in the year with Charvarius Ward, and we talked about all the receivers on the team, and he's like, he really likes Danny Gray. He's like, man, he'll eat up your cushion really fast with that speed. But as far as just feel, route running, nuance, stop and start, all the different things that go into becoming an elite wide receiver, all the things that make it difficult to cover a guy, he's still really raw. And that came out in that interview.
It seems like he's a split end on this team, an X receiver, which means that he's lined up on the line of scrimmage. And yeah, if you give him a cushion, he'll eat it up. But it seemed like last year, if you press him, you can kind of take him out of his route because he doesn't have that initial crossover like Brandon Ayuk, and he's not strong like Brandon Ayuk. So he's going to need to get stronger, to your point, to play that split end position. Otherwise, they're going to have to, put him in the slot or put him in motion, try to create a free release for him. But I thought down the stretch, he got one end around and picked up some yards and looked dynamic. And I kept thinking like, all right, next game he's going to get 2 touches, and they never did that. So I'm intrigued. And if Trey Lance ever gets to play, maybe he starts the first 2 games. I'm looking back at Danny Gray because I feel like they drafted him with Trey Lance in mind. And we saw Trey Lance hit him deep down the field in preseason, never got to go back to him. I want to see that one more time before one of these guys is moved off this team.
And if you talk to Shanahan about play calling, he would admit that Gray is a vitally important player because he takes the top off the defense. He makes the defensive backs honor his deep speed.
But you got to throw it to him deep and connect once for people to really honor it.
And you know what? I'll say this, though. At the end of the year when, a lot of guys just are, if they're not getting reps from scrimmage, they're not going to bring as much intensity on special teams. He had didn't he have a play in the playoff game where he downed a ball inside the 5?
I believe he did.
Danny Gray, kept it rolling, and he's told me, he said, man, when I get in the end zone, people are going to see I got a couple touchdown dances. So I like guys who are so confident that they've already got their dance planned. Now it's just a matter of getting him out there and seeing it.
It definitely seemed like he stayed locked in and didn't lose confidence despite getting buried, which is what happens to young guys on this team. So good for him. Corey Soto says, is this upcoming schedule the toughest since the Niners have become contenders? It's tough to really say what these teams are going to look like when we're in March, but it does look like just the travel alone is daunting. And I'm saying that as someone who has to do the travel. A lot of East Coast trips, Eastern time zone.
I haven't looked at it. Who's their schedule?
They got Pittsburgh on the road, Philly on the road, Cleveland, Minnesota. There's another one. Washington, Jacksonville. I mean, it's just a lot of 6-hour flights for me, for Grant Cohn. Yeah.
That's tough too, that early time zone, that early window.
Yeah. So I'm sure the Niners will have a couple back-to-back. I think they requested, hey, if we have 2 games on the East Coast, could they be back-to-back? Hey, could they be early in the season too? Because it's like 100 degrees over here in Santa Clara. So I wouldn't be surprised if they started off in Philly and then stayed out there and played in Pittsburgh or something like that, vice versa. That would be one hell of a start.
They seem like they're connected to the league. I don't know if it's because of their stadium, but because of the heat, I know that they'd like to push for later in the year home games. But I mean, I think later in the year home games benefit you anyway.
Right. Or night games early on. But you'll see they kind of avoid those day games in September at Levi's. They have been. Ace Nong 29 says, if we don't start Gray and pick up Renfrow, is Lance out? Don't start Gray and pick up Renfrow, is Lance out? Man, that's a lot. They haven't picked up Renfrow yet. No. Lance isn't out. Benny says, bros, who is the longest tenured Niner now that Jimmy Ward is gone?
Armstead.
It's got to be Armstead. 2015. Yeah, it's definitely Armstead. Fish and Chip says, not Gray. It should be all about Ray McLeod. Good point. Ray McCloud. Can we just go back in time to when Debo was out and Ray McCloud just sort of stepped into his role and killed it? Did a great job. That was, I mean, that happened.
He could do more.
He could do more. He's super explosive. And frankly, I thought he was more explosive than Debo last year, who I thought had like a little backpack on his back all season, man. He had a little extra junk in the trunk last year. Sorry, can I say that?
I'll say this about Ray too. He's the kind of guy. Some guys are small and they know they're kind of small. He's like one of those guys that he's kind of small, but he kind of thinks he's the baddest guy on the field.
He does.
And there's no and shy away. There's no fear. The guy plays the game with no fear. No fear.
I've never seen someone that little run that hard.
Yeah.
I've never seen that. All right,
he was
last
a running
topic.
back in high school, I think running back either in high school or college. So he
plays
likes
like it.
getting handed the ball on those, like I think you're talking about the Commanders game where Kyle ran him around the right edge. He got the corner at will like a Raheem Mostert and was gone.
Like Debo did 2 years ago and didn't really do last year. All of a sudden, Ray was shot out of a cannon. I was like, hold on. And Kyle even joked about it. He said that he was trying to motivate Debo and said that Ray was a better gadget player than him last year. Yeah! Yes, I agree, Kyle. You said it. You were right. Give him the ball. Give him the ball. What does he have to do? Go to Cabo to get the ball?
Yeah, they got to the edge for a massive gainer.
Never called it again.
Never went back.
I don't like that stuff. I don't like that. I feel like coaches, your job is to be really creative and catch people off guard. But if you find something that works that well, you owe it to the whole organization to call it one more time before you don't win the Super Bowl that year.
At least call it once.
Call it once. Kyle Shanahan's cat says,
"Does see that a lot?"
Thank you, does Eddie DB have any say at the Niners these days? No.
Well, I mean,
unless Jed calls him up himself.
Say with Jed, if Eddie was unhappy about something, he could voice that to Jed. But as far as day-to-day say of the operation, no.
All right, final question. We just talked about Danny Gray, but there was a very large draft class last season. And of those players, only guys that really got on the field were Spencer Burford, Brock Purdy, and a little Jordan Mason. But that doesn't really indicate which guys are going to be really good pros, as we saw last year. Talanoa Funga, Aaron Banks. The Niners have these redshirt players, Jake Brendel, who just emerged after being on the bench for 1 year or longer. Who do you think that breakout player will be? There might be more than one. Let's start listing.
This is gonna be the happy moment of the summer when people realize that this list is like 6 deep.
Yeah.
We'll go right down the list. Kalia Davis is special. Really
Kalia
special.
Davis is important. So let's talk about the Niners D tackles. You got Javon Hargrave, Eric Armstead, Kevin Givens, T.Y. McGill, and Kalia Davis. They're 5 deep.
And they got Kinlaw.
And Kinlaw. Yeah, that's true.
But Kalia Davis is really fast. So you're talking about an interior pass rusher who can close on the quarterback and sack the quarterback. So I'm really excited about Kalia Davis. Marcelino McCrary Ball, I think, is a terrific player who can be as good as he wants to be. I mean, he's really good. And he's instinctive and fast, and he's the guy's.
He could be the next Azeez Al-Shaair, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's really good. I like him a lot. I think he starts over Demetrius Flanagan Fowles in that third linebacker spot. And then
I think so too. And Burks is a special teams guy too. I'm with you on that. All right, keep going.
I'll give you another one that I'm just absolutely now. Maybe it's I love this guy too much in college, but Quantrez Knight is a player, and I don't know if he's a nickel. I don't know if he's a corner. I don't know if he's a free safety.
Doesn't matter.
He's one of them,
nice.
and he's a player. And he barely played at all this year. And watch out for Quantrez Knight. I mean, he's going to be really good this summer. He's going to be quicker.
Do you ever talk to him in the locker room?
Yeah,
I love him.
His dad follows me on Twitter, Tommy.
Whenever I see Quantrez, he tells me to call him Q. So whenever I see Q in the locker room, he says, "I'm coming, baby. I'm coming. Watch out for me. I'm coming." Meaning to the team. I'm going to make it. So I love Quantrez. He went to UCLA, so I always say what's up to the UCLA players.
He is, even though he was a practice squad guy, he is an alpha type personality.
Oh,
so I love Quantrez.
I saw him play in college. I was at a game against Stanford. I was pretty much right on the sideline, and he was galvanizing the team the whole freaking time, and they won.
He wore
because of
Willie
Quantrez.
Mays' 24.
I think he was basically Chip Kelly's guy on defense. Like he was the leader of the defense for Chip Kelly. Really trusted him.
He's a really smart football player.
I went up to him in the locker room. I was like, "Hey, do you know who the coach of this team was before Kyle?" He was like, "No." I was like, "Chip Kelly." He's like, "Really?" So funny, man. Anyway, keep going.
Awesome.
Keep going.
So those three guys for sure on defense, absolutely. On offense, there's a few as well.
Hold on. What about Drake Jackson on defense? What about Drake Jackson?
Well, Drake Jackson for sure.
Gotta be. They need him. I feel like they're creating a super highway for him to play, right? They got rid of Ebukam. No Amenahue. It's all you, baby. It's all
Drake
you.
is going to have a huge role. He's going to have a huge role.
I would think so.
He actually played at such a level this year. I was kind of thinking of guys who didn't play.
Enough.
But you're right. He played.
Yeah.
But then on the other side of the ball, I expect Purdy to be quite a bit better. I really expect Nick Zakelj to emerge this year. And don't forget Tay Martin. Tay Martin was a great receiver in college, and he just didn't get any run at all last year on this team. But he's 6'3" with really great hands, and he doesn't have burner speed, but he's an excellent red zone threat. And I just think he's going to be a guy who's going to score a lot of touchdowns in his career.
I think there's one more. I think there's going to be one of those two running backs, either Ty Davis Price or Jordan Mason. And it depends on which one gets the opportunities. But the Niners, Kyle Shanahan's pattern is he has a new leading rusher every year. And the way he was using Christian McCaffrey last year, boy, I hope nothing bad happens to Christian. But I think the pattern is it's going to be someone else that leads the team in rushing this year. And if it's someone else, I don't think it's going to be Mitchell. Mitchell can't stay healthy. But Jordan Mason looks like a freaking tank. He doesn't run. He's not super fast, but he's explosive and he runs harder than just about anyone I've seen. So I would think Jordan Mason is going to. They can't help but give him the ball. Yeah. They just can't help but give him the ball. He's too good.
He's when I watch him, I don't want to put this label on him or anything, but I see kind of a little beast mode.
Me too. He runs that hard. He runs angry. And running angry is different than running hard, and not that many people really do it. He does it.
Yeah.
He does it. Ray does it at 180 pounds. God love you, Ray.
But Jordan Mason on that run, what run was that? Was that regular season or playoffs?
That was regular season, Seattle. Just 50 yards
down to the 5 or down to the 2 or something.
He's really good.
Yeah.
I can't wait. If Trey Lance ever plays, I'd love to see what these running backs, McCaffrey, Mason, even Ty Davis Price, look like, in a zone read attack where the defense is looking at Trey the whole time and all of a sudden, he gets the ball. Because doesn't that do wonders for the running backs in Philadelphia? Just not even the quarterback keeping it, but just the threat. I think that'll be big.
Whoever's the Niner quarterback, it should be a run-heavy scheme. By the way, Georgia Tech had Jahmyr Gibbs and Jordan Mason
on the same team. Wow.
Crazy.
Did they manage to win anything, or did that coach fumble that?
They didn't win anything.
Michael says, here's $2. Thank you, Michael. Fish and Chips, Kyle's book title after the show, That's Football. Ooh, I like that. That is Trey sarcastic. I like it very much. Did we just go through a whole show in 38 minutes? We might have. What about Sammy Womack? What about him? He almost started as a rookie.
He's good. He's really good. I think Sammy Womack might be an outside corner. I know everybody's thinking about he's a slot guy.
That's fair.
The way
he got the speed.
He looks like the kind of guy that could jump routes on the outside and take it back. I think Womack was this close to a couple pick sixes this year, and I think next year he gets those.
We saw what Womack could do in man-to-man coverage in the slot. He had his back, at least in preseason, he had his back to plays, turned around, made the catch. Like, that's high-level stuff. I think the reason he lost that job is because of the run defense. I don't know.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, move him outside.
Yeah.
Move him outside.
I just think that, when you can find corners that can mirror the way that he can,
with 4.3 speed,
if nothing else, he's quality depth. What did you think of the Hartsfield pickup?
I'd never heard of him. But I mean, it's Steve Wilkes. He's one of like the best DB coaches in the league. I trust him. He knows him. It's probably there's no guarantee he makes the team either. It might be like the Ross Dwelley of the DB room.
To me, Hartsfield is like the old Parcells line. Hey, if you're going to ask me to cook the dinner, you should let me shop for the groceries. I mean, if you're Steve Wilkes, and to me, he was like kind of an upgrade over Tarvarius, right? Tarvarius could play. He could play slot. He could play, free safety. But in reality, he was more of a DB or more of a special teamer.
Special teams guy. Yeah.
This guy
couldn't tackle.
Has more talent to play from scrimmage, but is an equal special teamer. So it probably gives them. It's probably a better use of their depth to have a guy who can actually play from scrimmage.
It's kind of amazing in retrospect to think back on that Super Bowl team that played the Chiefs and realize that Tarvarius Moore was on the field, like in big moments. Gave up a touchdown to Travis Kelce's like Tarvarius Moore. That guy was not really anything for the 49ers. They're better off without him.
Oh, I know.
Hartsfield.
What about free agency? Are you the first wave is done? They have about $8 million. Is there any free agent out there that you would absolutely like to see them?
The next John Feliciano?
Well, or do you think that they can extend at all for anybody? I mean, there's Leonard Floyd, there's Frank Clark,
I'd love it to be that. But look, if it's not Leonard Floyd, they better have someone real explosive, an edge rusher that they're drafting. They got to have a targeted edge rusher, either in free agency. So maybe if they wait another week and Leonard Floyd has no market, they can get him. But yeah, Leonard Floyd would be freaking perfect. If the Niners got Leonard Floyd, I would look at them a lot differently because Drake Jackson, is he an interior rusher or an edge rusher? It seems like most of his sacks in college and in the NFL came through, the middle, either through a stunt or just lining up as an interior rusher. So who is the D Ford of this defense? They haven't replaced him. He's important. Who is that? Leonard Floyd.
They got to add a couple guys. Probably at least one in free agency, probably 2 or 3 in the draft. But edge rusher is going to be the need in the draft. You got to think. And it's a great draft for edge rushers. So they might be sitting in a good spot.
But it seems like, you could get, like to your point, there's like 3 or 4 edge rushers hanging around on the free agent market right now who are good.
Yeah.
Not so with right tackles. So it's always harder to get the right tackle. I don't know how probably got to get that in the draft and figure it out, but you could get the edge rusher right now. But it seems like by letting Jordan Willis go and Amenahu and Ebukam and only signing Farrell, who's a run defender, the Niners are really hoping Drake Jackson hits. So maybe he'll be Alden Smith next year. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I should
either they're looking for him to have a huge second year, or they still have a significant free agent defensive end coming, or they like somebody in the draft a lot. But they'll have a number of picks. I mean, they should be good, really good rushers there in the 3rd round.
All right. We just did a quick show today. It's all right. That's okay. Hey, what do you got going on today? The rest of the day, the rest of the week.
Well, tonight I'm going to come on after the Warriors Houston. If the Warriors lose tonight, they're pretty much freaking cooked. So we got.
Is it in Houston?
It's in Houston. Yeah, in Houston, and they're struggling. Their Warriors can't beat anybody on the road at all. But yeah,
if you were a gambler, would you ever bet on the Warriors to win a road game this season?
No, they're like 7-30 or something like that.
How do you account for that?
They're digging themselves holes, and then they don't have enough offensive firepower, so they just they fall behind, and then all of a sudden you throw extra bodies towards Steph. Wiggins has been out. They just don't have any good, real big time firepower. It doesn't. You know what it is that in the NBA, role players can score at home, but they just, for whatever reason, role players cannot score on the road. So they've got. Normal. They need some of their secondary players to provide points for them to win games, and they do it at home, and they don't do it on the road.
They just also seem like a really small, kind of exhausted team. Like they don't really have a center, and so on the road, they just feel like they're chasing rebounds, they're giving up offensive rebounds, they're giving up wide open threes. They just look exhausted all the time on the road. I don't know. Maybe that's just the way I see it. But at home, it's always easy to be pumped up with your crowd there. But on the road, the Warriors just look tired and upset and frustrated, like they're not really a team. Maybe it's because Draymond punched that guy in the face. I don't know.
They also look real. They're falling behind. They're getting wasted early in the first quarter, and then they're having to expend all this energy to come back. So
also, Wiggins not being there really hurts.
He
hurts.
Yeah, and also they just don't have a lot of firepower. Some of these teams have a lot more. I mean, the Lakers, the Kings, some of these teams actually have more firepower than Golden State, especially, with Curry out, with Wiggins out. It's like they just don't have this much firepower. I mean, I like DiVincenzo, but now the Wiseman CP2 trade, or GP2 trade, I should say, doesn't look very good because Wiseman's playing well.
Corey Soda says, you see Purdy having sophomore breakout after UCL? I mean, anything's possible. We don't really know what he's going to be like this year.
Well, I mean,
could be Trey.
Yeah, I mean, his that elbow injury is all about his ability to throw. But your ability to throw is just a tiny, tiny part of the equation. And where I'm seeing the improvement is, look at Matt Ryan went from totally average to the MVP of the league in year 2. It takes a while to digest Kyle's offense. Brock did a nice job, but I got to think that if you put him an entire offseason in this offense, everything is vast as it is, that he's going to be quite a bit better, just breaking everything down. So I'm expecting some mental improvement.
Fish and Chip says in 23, don't call Kyle coach anymore. Anything but. He's not Coach Kyle. Was he Cabo Kyle? What is he? Karate Kyle?
Yeah.
What are we calling him?
Flat cap Kyle.
All right, that's the show. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. I'll be back tomorrow with my pops. Go watch Larry. Go vote for Larry. Me and him, heads up. No, vote for me. Are you kidding? Vote for me.
Yeah. I better prevail.